disingenuous. He stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show. You are listening to Abuki Cabal, the analytical savage.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Tonight I want to talk about a show that I was watching with this gentleman on here. It's tonight's conversation. Gosh, I can't remember what the guy's name is. I mean, it just slipped my mind right off the bat here. But it is gosh, I cannot remember the guy's name. It just slipped my mind. I cannot believe this. Anyway, the conversation on the show was going along the lines of this. This gentleman here basically was speaking with a guest who was on the show. Well, one of the audience members, and the audience member was had some concerns about relationships and whatnot. So his explanation went into some claims that he had about the Black Panthers and how they were pretty much an organization of abusers, and how they abused women inside the organization. And I took issue with this because you see a lot of things being said about things that people think about things that happened in the 60s and whatnot. A lot of rebranding and mischaracterizations of historic milestones, organizations, and people, and repackaging these people as misogynist and abusers of women and whatnot. And it's unfair, and it's just another form of this new misandry that's going about, where men are being even guys like this is Tripp Fontane. That's his name. Okay, I apologize. Tripp Fontane is on tonight's conversation, and he's one of the panel members, and he's going on about this about how the Black Panthers abuse their female members, and I through all of my reading and classes on Black history, I have never ever heard this before. Even listening to female members of the Black Panthers, I never heard any claims that they were being sexually abused or being taken advantage of or any of that. But this made me think about another young lady who had a podcast. I sent it to BGS a while back, and it was talking about how white women infiltrated SNCC. And they infiltrated this group. He did a show on it, but she talked about how the stories were not being told by Black women; they were being told by white women about how they viewed black women's interaction with black men as being less than ideal, and that they were pretty much in these roles that were characterized as distasteful to these white women. So if you do your homework on feminism and proto-feminism, you'll see that a lot of these women who basically came down from on high and told these lesser women that basically you should want more. You don't have an education. You aren't able to spend money. You aren't able to do all these things. Why are you guys cooking? Why are you guys just typing up papers and all these types of things? Most women during that time were doing these things, but you had these women who were basically women of means. They had money. Their families had money. They had educations. They had bank accounts. They had property, all these things. But they came down to tell all these other women how they should be angry about the things that they didn't have. And eventually, initially, these things were rejected by women at large, but slowly but surely, as time progressed, like I tell you guys about Caesar and Rome, when he said basically, what do I care about, these people that we take, that we enslave? They're nothing. We can work them. We can let them go about their day-to-day lives, but we're going to take their children and we're going to educate their children. And then their children will be Romans. And then we can basically discard them. So then the generations that follow will be Romans. They will be loyal to Rome. They're going to want all of the amenities that Rome has to offer. And that's what happened over time with us. BGS just did a show where he was talking about, this benevolent characterization of women, especially, us black men and black women, where black women are almost, deified. They can do no wrong. They're not violent, even though we see violence from them and verbal and physical abuse from them on a daily basis sometimes. We still ignore that, and we somehow justify it in our minds as something that we have to deal with in order for us to have the type of woman that we find to be attractive. Which black women say, well, we're the most loyal, race loyal. No, you're not. Black men are the most race loyal with regard to relationships, but black men like attractiveness, and slowly but surely over time that has started to fade, because of the influence of feminism, white women. So I say all that to say that the same thing happened here, and you're going to hear it not from me. You're going to hear it from someone who was actually in the Black Panthers, who basically told you what happened, how white women came in and basically told these women that, they were in a bad situation, that they shouldn't be doing all of this, that you're basically being subjugated by the patriarchy. Okay? So essentially, black folks who were rejecting, the white establishment basically was being told by the establishment what to think, how to be, and at first they rejected it, but over time they've embraced it. I'm going to also attach this same female Black Panther who basically talks more about rejecting feminism, but then as you look at her presentation in its entirety, she was giving it at I want to say it was Spelman, and it's filled with with woman-centric focus. There's no focus on men. There's no focus on us as a part of the community. It's all focused on children and the women of the Black community, and there's no focus on the men, even though the men were pretty much the cannon fodder the movement and for the wins and victories of the movement that got us to where we were to where we had political capital, to where we had social capital. That we were able to basically bargain with in order to get political movement in this country, political capital also, as you, if you will. Okay, so I've gone on a bit with this. I could go on further, but I'm going to go ahead and get to what was said, because I think you guys are going to find this interesting. Okay. All right. Here is the presentation here. I'm gonna mute myself out and I'm gonna let you guys hear it.
Been one prominent form of protection that we've known of black women in this country, and that's violence. Because violence was how we got here. Again, like let's just talk about the facts. We came here violently. From that point forward, we were all in a fight just to be human. Not to love, not to be married. We was in a fight to be human. The only way to protect you in that form of survival was violence. White men took you violently, and white women for that matter, because they were not innocent, took you violently. And the only thing that we could do was kill master, run away, get enough money to buy you back. This is where protection started for us here. So when we talk about assessing how we've protected you, it's never been a thing, y'all. I hate to speak of us this way, but this protection, this thing that we pretend existed in yesteryear, where we was this knight in shining armor, bro, bullets is what we had. Fighting is what we had. The gangs that we formed is what we had. And even when you investigate those, when you look at the Black Panther parties, when you look at, bro, they were sexually assaulting women too. You feel me? So it's not this like I understand that, but we're not gonna say that just to garner women's sympathy. It's just it's to say that like it's always been much more complex than us standing up for y'all and speaking up for y'all. When we talk about us not knowing how, it's because the only method of protection that we've ever been allowed to practice and had space to practice, if you want to say allowed, is violence, bro.
Okay, did you guys hear that? He said, and I'm gonna run it back. He said that the Black Panthers sexually assaulted, and he alluded to violence against women, against their female members. Okay, now if you also take a look at that, you'll see that the entire audience, I'll say about 90% of the audience, are black females. So this is Ace Metaphor's, gang up there, and Obsidian has basically, had an interview with him. We've seen other interviews where he's made claims about black men not liking black women, and all these ignorant, uneducated claims. And I'm not going to say that he isn't educated. I think he is pandering to his audience because he's making tons of money going from city to city, sitting in front of these women and executing an excellent business plan in order for him to make money, pandering to these women and this woman-centric view. But this claim that the Black Panthers were somehow taking advantage of their female members, I think is disingenuous. I think it's dangerous. I think it's almost tantamount to the same thing that was done with The Color Purple. This characterization of black men throughout that time period, and now he's saying in front of all of these women, and it's being broadcast all over the place, Facebook, every platform that has, tonight's conversation on it. I don't know how many views this got, but it was unchallenged. No one challenged the fact that he made these claims about the Black Panthers, But I'm gonna run it back. We're gonna listen to it again, and then we're going to move on to what really happened.
Way. But this protection, this thing that we pretend existed in yesteryear, where we was this knight in shining armor, bro, bullets is what we had. Fighting is what we had. The gangs that we formed is what we had. And even when you investigate those, when you look at the Black Panther parties, when you look at, bro, they were sexually assaulting women too.
Okay, the gangs, black men were not these knights in shining armor. The Black Panthers were sexually assaulting women too. You see, they even had it. They've got the verbiage being highlighted, so that you make sure that you get the message. Okay. Very irresponsible. I think it's. Dr. T, if you're listening, if you could, touch on this, hit me in the comments. You know what I mean? But I think this needs to be addressed. I think this is something that I think Dr. T addresses in his studies, his classes about Black male studies, where we're being demonized. And if we do not counter this, and then they call us sassy for coming back and trying to set the record straight about who we are and who we have been. This man is saying that basically all we had was violence. All we had was bullets. What about those of us who were taking bullets? Taking bullets, protecting our families. Those of us who were lynched by the thousands. I have 2 books right here that catalogs thousands of Black men being hung to protect women and to protect the Black family, the Black community. From the hell when they started covering it from the 1800s all the way up to the 1960s, Black men were being lynched, and the ones that they have in these books are the ones that they found that they could keep up with. Okay. My mother is a Black historian. I mean, I've heard these stories. I mean, she goes from state to state all over the country, looking at some of this data, and on how many of us were coming up missing. I've heard this ever since I was a kid. Read about this stuff. But the unfortunate thing is that my son is 24 years old. He's going to be 25. He gives no shits about any of this. None of these stories, none of that. That's why this stuff will be taken as the truth in the TikTok generation, the generation of the shorts, because their attention span is only that of 60 seconds. They're not going to refute this. They're not going to go look at it. They're not going to read it up. I'm hearing comments that, I know all about, Martin Luther King. Well, what do you know? I've seen him on TikTok. I've seen him on the shorts. I know what I need to know. When you tell them to go read the stuff, they reject it. They reject it wholeheartedly. So we are in a position of those of us who are older, we have to take up our position as teachers and leaders and teach these people. It's our job. It is our duty to do this. So let's move on to the next one.
You feel me? So it's not this like I understand that, but we're not gonna say that just to garner women's sympathy. It's just it's to say that it's always been much more complex than us standing up for y'all and speaking up for y'all. When we talk about us not knowing how, it's because the only method of protection that we've ever been allowed to practice and had space to practice, if you want to say allowed, is violence, bro.
And that's bullshit. That whole narrative that we don't know how to lead and we don't know how to talk to y'all, to women and all this other type of stuff. That's all bullshit. What about the this nuance? See, he's just saying nuance without saying nuance. See, that's the new spin on things, that we should go into the new and reject the old. The old has nothing to offer. You know, that's what he's pretty much saying in a nutshell. You know, and he's a poet, so come on. You know, I mean, he's word salad and this to make it palatable to this audience. You know, but what he's saying is bullshit. It really is. It has no merit to it whatsoever. And I'll tell you why. Because the majority of the time when we offer up anything that is in the form of guidance or leadership, it's wholeheartedly rejected by Black women. They do not want to hear us say anything because they feel like we can't tell them anything. We don't have the moral high ground to be able to tell them anything that they have to listen to. They say it day in and day out. You don't have to be on social media. You can be at your job. You can be out in your day-to-day dealings with them, and they will let you know that you are not to be respected. You are not to be listened to. No matter how you carry yourself, no matter what you're doing, they have a view of you in their psyche that they can't get around. And the reason for that is that this has been going on for a long time. All the way back when Black sociologists started cataloging this. Frazier, when he started cataloging this, he started showing the history of the Black family. Basically this same type of mindset in Black women has been going on for a long time. I talked about the show that BGS just did about Black women killing Black men, killing the men that they're with. The domestic violence was higher than that of white men. And how he showed how the demographic itself, the whites outnumber us 2-3 to 1. So then when you start seeing the number of deaths that they're looking at just in the city that they looked at, if you looked at how many deaths of Black men that it would be, he said it would be around 5,000. Those numbers. If you look at the numbers of Black men who are basically killed by the police on an annual basis nationwide, it's about that. It's about that. Look up those numbers and look at how many have been killed by the police over, say, last year before last. And you look at how many Black men are killed, and you tell me that number, because I've looked at those numbers, because I looked at those numbers and compared those numbers to the numbers of these LGBTQs that are supposed to be dying at an alarming rate, and it's far, far, far less than Black men who are being killed from homicide in this country. So that is a phenomenal amount of people who are being erased by their significant others. And then the other aspect to that is that all that data has been pushed under the rug. He said you can't even get that book anymore, and I don't doubt it. There's a lot of books that we can't get anymore because that's part of the efforts by the women who have taken over these parts of academia, and trying to basically repackage the data and put new data out to show that the patriarchy has been victimizing women forever. That's why you're seeing all of this Disney princess type of packaging for every aspect of how we see women in life. Okay, this new Call of Duty game that's about to come out. You got a black lady in it, black character who's on a special ops team. There has never been a woman in special ops in the history of this country. I think there are two that have been Army Rangers, and they won't even tell you what the standards were by which they passed in order to become these Rangers. But every other operator has to show that they met the standard. But these two women didn't have to do that, and though it's a closely guarded secret as to how these women got through. No one can see it. Not even other operators who have tried to see whether they met the standards. They can't see them. That's the type of stuff that's kind of going on. Okay. Well, anyway, this character they have is supposed to be a black lady. She's got braids and whatnot. She's Samoan, and she somehow had this. Now, this is being described by the female developer who was working on the game. And basically, she talks about how she had her arms and legs removed. So her extremities were removed. Her upper and lower extremities were removed in order for her to continue to be an operator. But it gives her the same strength, if not greater than a man. And what she says is, I would hate to be hit, to be punched or kicked by her in real life. So, it would never happen. It would never happen. Not to mention that, it would never happen that she would even be a special operator. Period. I was in the military too. They can't meet the standards. There's still women who are coming out saying they can't meet the standards. There was another Marine, a Marine they had one woman on a fire team. She could not keep up. Not to mention the other social aspects of having her on the team that she had. I may visit that, but that's just one example of the types of things that you have to take into account about this incursion into our very way of processing how we deal with these social problems that are happening in our community. But let's move on. I'm rambling. Don't want to do that. So let's move on to the Black Panthers characterization of what happened in her organization and how the white feminists tried to come in and cause anarchy.
That women ask, and mostly feminists, so-called feminists of the Gloria Steinem ilk, or whatever they now want to call themselves, the third wave, second wave, whatever wave they are. And this is a very bourgeois feminist notion, because they always think that we have to get out of the kitchen. And you know what black women said? You know what my mother said when they had get out of the kitchen and into the street? Yeah, I'd like to get out of the kitchen, your kitchen. And it didn't even occur to these Betty Friedens and whatever her name is, former CIA agent, Bunny, Gloria Steinem. She admits that she worked for the CIA, so it's not something Elaine is making up, okay? She talks about it, and she was also a Playboy Bunny. And Gloria Steinem and the Betty Friedan, that group, those are the kinds of people that constantly said, oh, the Black Panthers were chauvinists, so I didn't want to be in it. So I go, okay, fine, well, what group are you in? Because you denounced the woman that became Roe, and she said she didn't accept third trimester abortion. I'm finished proselytizing on this. I just want to make clear that who cooked the food, like what? What difference does it make? We thought of ourselves as an organization. If you had a job to do, you had an assignment. We were a paramilitary organization in the sense that people did not vote on what you did or what you didn't do. If you could cook, you would be cooking. If you could handle a gun, you would be handling a gun. Most women could not handle guns like men could, although all of us were trained on weapons, okay? So if you want to ask me about the internal workings of the Black Panther Party, then we can ask that.
Okay, that was Elaine Brown. She was, I want to say that she was the president of the party during a certain time period. But this says here, and Dr. T actually liked this. It's got 15,700 likes on Instagram. So Elaine Brown, feminists versus Black Panthers. Okay, when former Black Panther Party chairwoman Elaine Brown spoke about the Black Panther Party's food programs, particularly free breakfast and for children, which grew to provide more than one meal a day, an interviewer kept interrupting by asking who cooked. Brown snapped back by relaying that the bourgeois feminists like Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan had pushed the false narrative that the Black Panther Party was a chauvinist movement, reducing the party's revolutionary work to traditional gender roles. Okay. All right. So as you can see, another feminist incursion into history and historic groups in order to characterize them as being chauvinistic in some way. This type of thing keeps happening over and over and over. And it is, we can't just act like this stuff isn't happening. It's even happening if you try to look the information up. The information has been repackaged as being some type of chauvinist attack on femininity. I'll give you an example. I'm going to read a little bit of what I found. Okay, here's a little search that I did, and it talks about the Black Panther Party had documented instances of sexual violence and misogyny, particularly involving certain male members, though the party also included strong efforts by women to combat such behavior. Here's a detailed clarification on such instances, which that's bull crap too, because none of the women said that. None of the women said that. I'm gonna add how she talked about how reporters were asking her if she slept with Eldred Cleaver, if she slept with Huey, and if they slept with other members. And basically what she said was, no, I never slept with I think she said she never slept with Eldridge, but she didn't say she didn't sleep with any of the other ones. But if she did sleep with them, she did that because she wanted to. See, but they take agency out of this and act like they were just being subjugated to the whims of this, this paramilitary, black chauvinistic organization. And that's not what happened. The women themselves didn't say that that's what happened, but that's how it's being repackaged and recharacterized. And you'll see the same thing happen today. When there's a question being asked about anything on the news, you'll see someone, and it's usually a white female who comes in and now it's starting to be black females too, because now we got agents among us, whose primary mission is to interject that shouldn't a woman be involved in that, and these types of things that they inject into the conversation, which are irrelevant. When you talk about, I'm even hearing that women are talking about that feminism was never about equality. But I can pull up pictures right now where it says equality now. White women and black women holding those banners up. This was in the 60s and 70s, late 60s, 70s. We want equality now. Well, but these people who are out here, these young women, young black women out here saying that no, it's not about equality. We're special, yet, we want your stuff. We want. But this isn't about equality. You want special treatment. It has changed from that. But she talked about Betty Friedan. She talked about, Gloria Steinem. Betty Friedan had a husband. Betty Friedan was college educated. But everything that she talked about was victimhood concerning other women. A woman should be able to get out of the house and she should be able to do this. What about what she wants to do? What if she didn't want to do that? You know what? When they said they didn't want to do that, they said they were ignorant. They didn't know any better. All the more reason why they should have an education so they can know what's what they're not getting, what's available in the world out there. So that's why you hear them saying over and over and over the things that they want that will better their lives, make them complete, is traveling, spending money, consumerism, and men being at their disposal. Not having to do anything for them, but men just basically being at their disposal. And the other thing that they talk about is basically being victimized by every man in society, whether they've seen them, whether they've heard about them, whether it's just floating oppression, just floating freely in the air. You know, no one, they can't bring up anything, any way that they were oppressed. You know, it's crazy. I remember being in college and cell biology, you know, micro, genetics, all kinds of chemistry, molecular chemistry, molecular biology. All of these high-end classes, and having to compete against women coming to my class dressed like cheerleaders and having relations with the teachers. And I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to compete with that? How do I compete with that? I can't compete with that. And if I say something, I'm going to be destroyed if I go and I say anything about that. But I know for a fact, I know 2 women who graduated, you know, 2 of them who graduated. And I know for a fact that they were sleeping with the professors going through the program. You know what I mean? And I'm not the only one that knows. Females knew about it. Me and my classmates talk about it to this day. Okay? All right. Well, let's move on to what they talk about Eldridge Cleaver's history of sexual violence. Okay, Eldridge Cleaver, a high-profile Black Panther Party leader and minister of information, was a convicted rapist before joining the party. In his memoir, Soul on Ice, he admitted to raping black women as practice for further raping white women, which he initially framed as an insurrectionary act against systemic racism. Though he later rejected this justification, he never formally repudiated these views while in the Black Panther Party. Okay, all right. Cleaver's past and his 1968 Pussy Power campaign urged women to withhold sex from men who didn't support the Peace and Freedom Party, highlighted misogynistic attitudes among some male leaders. Okay, I don't get how his assertion for these women to abstain from sex with men in order for them to be politically active in a certain direction characterizes misogynistic attitudes among the male leaders. That's his personal situation, and it doesn't say that he sexually assaulted anybody while he was a Black Panther. That was before he became a Panther. But you see how this is spun into the story as if he was an abuser while he was a part of the party. You know, everybody else can be reformed except for us. You notice that? We're always criminals. We'll be criminals until they kill us or until we die. So here we go on. Institutional sexism and resistance. Early Black Panther Party structures included gender hierarchies, such as labeling women as pantherettes, but female members quickly challenged this. They swapped traditional roles, e.g., women patrolling with guns while men worked in the community kitchens to dismantle stereotypes. Okay. Now, you just heard from a member who said that that didn't happen. But this is the how white folks are characterizing our history. You know, and there's something that one of the other women said when I was talking about when they invaded SNCC. The black woman came to the conclusion that when that thing happened with SNCC, basically these white female members who were basically feminists wrote a manifesto that they did not put their names on. They just made it like it came from the women in general, and basically characterized their duties within SNCC as being misogynistic and demeaning to women. But all of the black women were like, we didn't write this. I wonder who wrote this. So then it eventually led to all of the white folks being expelled from the group. They kicked all the white folks out of SNCC because they were causing chaos. So here you see the same thing happening here, where you have and the Black Panthers had all kind of folks. They had white folks, they had Vietnamese folks, they had Chinese folks, they had different chapters all around. You look into them, you'll see. And that food program that they had, basically, that was before any welfare programs that happened, any child programs that dealt with feeding students, hungry students in schools. The government adopted the program that they started after they destroyed them through the FBI's efforts to basically dismantle that group and kill off its members. Okay, but I guess none of that is relevant. You know, but if you're looking into this stuff, you need to know that it is relevant. Okay. All right. So, again, talking about swapping, gender roles and highlighting gender roles. Okay. So women like Tarika Lewis and Kathleen Cleaver confronted sexism directly. Lewis, for instance, outshot male members who doubted her authority, while Kathleen Cleaver criticized male chauvinism in the party discourse. Okay, so you heard that basically you had a member here who basically said that they wholeheartedly rejected, characterizations that they were not. That they were being subjugated by their male members. But here you have it being, rebranded and repackaged, and as you can see, women, they always have one who outdid the man. There's always got to be somebody who is outdoing the man in the organization. I can outshoot you. I can outrun you. I can outlead you. It's always them doing better. And you see that today. We're the most educated. We're the most this. We're the most that. It's always they have to be out front of black men. But they say they want partners. A partner is not trying to be out front of you. A partner is an equal contributor. Although I reject this premise of partnership in a marriage. It was never supposed to be a partnership in the first place. That partnership shit came from white feminists. And basically it was pulled from domestic partnerships, which is a gay thing. That was because they couldn't get married, so they called them domestic partners. So they don't even know the history of where this stuff came from, but it's all, and go back even farther than that, and all of the keys to that, came from Pauli Murray. Pauli Murray, who was basically working with black folks, working with with civil rights leaders, then give the keys to the castle to the white feminists, National Organization of Women, and then National Organization of Women had their gay members, their lesbian members, who basically leaked it on out to their gay male members, and then they formed their gay organizations based off of the framework that Pauli Murray helped put together, the legal framework. And they started making victories and further trying to get to the resources that were supposed to go to the black community. This thing is huge, and it's still going on to this day. That's why affirmative action didn't work, and that's why DEI didn't work for us. So this thing is huge. It is a gigantic evil machine. Okay, let's move on here. All right, so like I said, Takara usually doubled doubted her authority, while Kathleen Cleaver criticized male chauvinism in the party discourse. Okay, documented cases of and accountability. While no widespread systematic rape of Black Panther Party women by male members is documented, see, they go through all of this and then finally get to the meat of it. It never happened. It never happened. So Tripp Fontane, it never happened. Okay? And I think you need to come back and give a clarification on it. I think you got caught up in the emotion of the moment and trying to give these women some comfort, but you lied to them. Okay? Okay, so while no widespread systematic rape of Black Panther Party women by male members is documented, Cleaver's history and the broader culture of male dominance created tensions. The party's newspaper, the Black Panther, became a platform to address gender violence, including forced hysterectomies and reproductive rights abuses. And who was this? This wasn't happening in our community. It wasn't happening in an organization. They were talking about this happening in different parts of the world, different other communities, because what the party said, and if anybody does their due diligence, they would say, how can we sit up here and advocate for Black freedom when we see all these other people being oppressed and having systematic hardships by these governments? It was a paramilitary organization with some communist leanings. That's why they call themselves Comrade. So that people need to read. Reading is fundamental. They didn't teach us how to do it for nothing. And I expect more, of men who are on panels like this. Ace Metaphor and Tripp, you need to do better. You need to do better. And maybe you guys are off the show now, but still your responsibility to provide information that is correct, especially, I'm not going to even say especially dealing with us. Although I feel like especially dealing with us, because we have a hill to climb when it comes down to us being characterized as less than respectable in this machine, this matrix that we live in. That is the white system. We have, everybody talks about how much power we have in this system, how much we can change. I'm really fast approaching the belief that there's not much that we can change with regard to this, because when I see men who have been systematically indoctrinated into a belief system, a soft belief system, a woman-centric belief system that is to the detriment of men and humanity as a whole. Because I'm gonna tell you, look, these women, these Betty Friedan's and these white feminists, they are out here advocating for things like castrating male babies and all this type of stuff, because they don't feel like we should even be able to have children. They are so unintelligent that they don't realize that even by advocating some of the things that they advocate, if these women don't have children, your genetic line does not go forward. This is basic genetics, basic biology. If you don't procreate, your genes are excluded from the pool. So all the women who are having babies, their kids' genes go forward. Those men's genes go forward. So basically what you're going to do is you're basically just, you're engaging in your own demise of your entire genetic line. So you don't go forward. I mean, this is basic. Okay, so let's go on. So after 1969, the 1969 arrest of Eric Huggins, a pregnant Panther, Eldridge Cleaver issued a statement condemning male chauvinism, signaling a shift in the rhetoric, though this was inconsistent with his earlier actions. See what I'm saying? Eldridge could not grow beyond his earlier actions. He can never grow beyond their characterization of him as being, chauvinistic and a perpetrator of disproprieties towards women. They stick on that. Okay, so let's then number 4. We go to women's leadership and reform. By the 1970s, women like Elaine Brown, who became the chair, that's who we just heard from, in 1974, pushed for gender equity, appointing women to key roles and addressing sexism through political education. Former Panther Assata Shakur emphasized the need for a Black woman's movement within the struggle, reflecting intersectional critiques of sexism and racism. So when you start seeing intersectional and all of that, that's interesting. These are the words that they basically created in order to connect everything together. You're going to connect the experience of gay people, intersectionality, you're going to connect, the woman's experience. Everybody's experience is connected except for men. Men are excluded from that whole thing, unless you're gay. If you're gay, you're added to it, okay? So you start seeing all of these new terms and everything that basically feminists created in order to extend the framework into where we are today with all of this unrealism in every form of media, and the problems that we have now where women just don't want to be women. They reject the whole entire premise of being women. They want to be something else other than that, something that's beyond that. Because just being a woman is not good enough. Even though we as men, we exalt women. We want to be with them. We want to love them. We want to share our lives with them. But they don't see that as something that is noble or noteworthy or even redeemable in any way. So, and that's a problem. That's a problem. This will lead to, as this grows, this will lead to I think saying an extinction level event is just too over the top. But it's going to be a big deal because, like I just showed y'all on that last show that I did about these birth rate numbers, there's more data coming out. I mean, it's affecting places where it never affected before. It's affecting, and it's not slowing down. It's actually speeding up. So you're going to see whole countries that are going to not be around based off of the contagion that's being spread, which is feminist ideals, Western feminist ideals. They're trying to go back and rewrite history as we know it. And then they're teaching that to the girls. Look around at how this social media is affecting girls. Girls are no longer, some of them are dressing, like girls, but a lot of them are starting to reject the male gaze. They're not even motivated by it all, by it at all. They're starting to wear things and to carry themselves in a way that is just not even, it's wholeheartedly rejected by men. They look like I don't even know how to describe it, but all these colored hair, tattoos all over their bodies, just wearing this generic, almost Gothic looking clothing that is just not accepted by anybody. I mean, some people just think it's just weirdoism, but let's move on. All right, so it goes on to say that the legacy and ongoing reckoning, the intersectional Black Panther Party History Project now documents gendered experience in the Black Panther Party, highlighting both oppression and resistance. Okay, while the Black Panther Party was not uniformly violent towards women, Cleaver's actions and institutional sexism underscore that some male members perpetrated harm even as women fought to transform the party. How did they perpetrate harm? So see, this is another part where they start to say that they are harmed just by your presence, just by you being, and that's this thing about the patriarchy. I guess it's just the environment that the patriarchy creates. It's like them having to walk around in a spacesuit because they're surrounded by environmental patriarchy, which is ignorant as ignorant can be. I mean, this perceived oppression needs to be dealt with. I don't know what's going to happen. I think we need to start to root out some of these the overwhelming presence of women in psychiatry, sociology, and in psychiatry, because this is crazy. And a lot of this stuff is being perpetuated by their takeover of academia and the sciences, and history, history, philosophy. They're taking over these things and just recharacterizing the way that everything is being taught and being viewed. Okay, so I'll finish up with this. The key takeaway is the Black Panther Party was not monolithic. It included both perpetrators like Cleaver and women who systematically challenged misogyny. The party's evolution on gender reflects broader tensions in revolutionary movements where the patriarchal norms clashed with radical egalitarian ideals. That is a repackaged characterization of what happened. I would challenge you guys to go out and basically look up what was written prior to. I would say you have to go back to before the 2000s. Actually, you have to actually start looking at some of this stuff in the 90s. Prior. I don't know when The Color Purple was came out, but I would say around that time, because even The Color Purple's notion about how black men were being characterized was being challenged. So at that time you still had papers, books, and whatnot that you could get that were not skewed towards a feminist narrative. If you guys during Black History Month, I want you guys to go off into the bookstores and whatnot. I want you to look at the books that they put out on the tables for Black History Month. And I can tell you right now what they're going to be. They're going to be all Black feminist books that are going to be laid out on the table. Every single one of them are going to be from Black feminists. And that's kind of where we are. So you're going to have to deviate from what they put out there for you, and you're going to have to get a reading list. I would challenge you guys to go to BGS, get you a reading list. Go to Dr. T.S. Johnson, get you a reading list. Go to Dr. Neal, get you a reading list. Media Man, with some of his efforts at trying to show you how to go and find the statistical data so that you get to the bottom of this stuff. But stay vigilant, and for the ladies that listen to me, you have to stay vigilant also. Don't fall victim to this characterization of our community by these white folks. We fought too hard to basically to be able to tell our own stories, to be able to put forth our own branding, without this external influence. Can you imagine if Native Americans basically went out and they, their story was being told by, some white guy who lives, outside, way away from their culture or whatnot. Oh, I'm just going to tell the story of the Indians. I'm just going to tell it the way I heard it from my great-great-grandfather, who basically took it all over, and that's supposed to be okay. You know, what if our history is being told, which 9 times out of 10 it is being told a lot of the times by the very people who enslaved us. That's why you hear things like, we were part of the family. We treated them like they were our children. I mean, we made sure they had something to eat. We made sure they had clothes, and all of that. They lived on our property just like they's one of us. Now, when you hear it like that, you reject it. But when you start, hearing it from the Gloria Steinems and the Betty Friedan's and the ones who have come after that, the folks on MSNBC, the ones who are on CNN, who are basically leading up damn near every one of the shows, who basically everything that you hear has got to be through their lens, You have to question all of these things, But I hope you guys like the show. I hope you appreciated my take on Tripp Fontane's view of how he thought, black men have been so bad on the black woman, how they're justified in their belief of how bad we are. I reject this, and I hope you guys will go ahead and do some reading, do some research, and look into it. And I hope you'll come to your own conclusion about his characterization of the history that the Black Panthers left behind. The sacrifices that they made, their members who died trying to protect our community, trying to give our community something better. And for him to come out and say something like that, I think is profoundly disrespectful. So, again, I appreciate you guys, coming to the show, listening to me. I am honored to have those of you who listen and who find this worth your time.
You are listening to Abuki Cabal, the analytical savage.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it a night. You guys like, share, and subscribe. And I am out. Baba Yaga.